What's up, beautiful people? Today I would like to address a very unique character, one who I've developed what you would call a love-hate relationship for throughout the years. It, yes, it, comes from this little number from 2005 called Madagascar. The character in question is none other than the man, the myth, the nightmare, Mort. Well, maybe nightmare is a bit harsh, but he has been known to cause quite the stir on YouTube. He has caused much turmoil for some, yet brings comfort and joy to others. Chances are a certain someone comes to mind when I say the word turmoil. And if you're a longtime viewer of mine, you might be familiar with, well, for better or worse, my most popular video, simply titled Mort. I do not know why it's my most popular video, but it just goes to show how much influence this character has. Looking back, it can almost be viewed as a sort of social experiment, if you will. One to test how impactful just the thing's name is at gathering attention. Either way, my intrigue for the character started with this little video called Mort Theory Number 1, The Diabolical Scourge of Madagascar. Well, maybe not that specific video, but there's many along those lines. All made by a nice fellow called The Theorizer. He's good, by the way. You should go watch him. But it was probably around 2021 when I first started watching those videos. I was in a more developmental era, when my mind was still very subject to change. Now, you would think based on those videos' agenda, I might start hating the character. But somehow, the opposite happened. You see, during that time, a big part of my development was being rebellious. And as you can imagine, being told to think a certain way basically meant to me, do not think that way. I'm not saying the Theorizer told me to hate Mort, obviously, but more so that the negative things he said about him kinda made me admire the character in a weird way. And honestly, I was a bit of a weird bugger back then. I won't get into the nitty-gritty, but I had this weird way of making things that were otherwise weird and uncomfortable amusing to me. And because of that quote-unquote admiration, I started watching the show All Hail King Julian. It's a spin-off of the movies, in the same vein of Penguins of Madagascar, if you can remember that one. Except this time on Netflix, not Nickelodeon like the latter. Either way, that show is more or less what the Theorizer used as a foundation for his theory. And that's where my fixation really blossomed. And let me tell you, that show was wild. I can't remember everything that happened in that show off the top of my head, but to sum it up, the lemurs doing the booty scooty, weird yet accurate lessons about how government works, and lots of crazy antics overall. Honestly though, the show kinda slapped. Figuratively, and probably literally as well. And you best believe Mort was one of the highlights for me. I'm pretty sure the Theorizer described the show itself as chaotic neutral, but I would argue that title belongs to Mort. The Thing was the definition of insanity. If you watch Happy Tree Friends, the closest comparison I have to Mort from that show is Nutty if he had the same personality disorder as Flippy, and his SUD was dialed up by 100 but without the chemical dependency. And instead of fiending for sugar, he'd be fiending for King Julian's feet 24/7. Also, he's indestructible. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
The children we can sell, and the women. The women. We will always treat with respect.
Long story short, Mort's character is batshit insane and I kinda went nutty for it. He was cute in a sort of forbidden way, if that makes sense. Like, he did all these creepy things that probably should have deterred me from liking the character, but because of my need to rebel and because of how ridiculous the character was, he was kinda my favorite thing for a while. I mean, look at this plush I bought with my hard-earned 7-Eleven money, and this fan art which I may or may not be showing you right now because of how horrifying it is. And hell, even the Smash Bros stage. And oh god, the real kicker, which I only just now remembered while writing this, you don't want to know. Like, you actually don't want to know. Yes, I actually went to school on that thing. Here's the thing though. As you grow older, your obsessions may start to wane a little. In other words, they can begin to stagnate. And as I started becoming less rebellious and started branching out into different things, I began, well, losing my spark for Mort. I know, tragic. The little guy had a good run, and I was happy with the character for a while, until my brain just went like, maybe this guy ain't all he's cracked up to be. And apparently, I was just like, but for real though, I grew tired of the character. The uncomfortable, oddly sexual things he did became less amusing, and a lot more eye-rolly, and kind of annoying. And as my interest in Mort tapered off, that just so happened to be around the time when I started getting into this other show called Happy Tree Friends. It was a new flavor of chaos, like nothing I could even imagine seeing in All Hail King Julian. Hell, nothing I'd even imagine from a cartoon. And unlike All Hail King Julian, not just one, but pretty much every character in the show looked f***ing adorable. You know, at least in the traditional sense. I honestly find a lot of things cute, even maybe some of the things I shouldn't. But either way, this was a show that I would definitively consider chaotic neutral in itself. Just like Mort, the character, seemingly cute, but with a twisted side. And well, if my interest in Mort hadn't been finished off before, he was all but left in the dust now. And for a while, Happy Tree Friends character designs ranked highest for me in terms of cuteness. It was the perfect ratio of adorably wholesome and horribly twisted. But then, as I kept watching, I started to realize. And I took that personally. And then, after that period of time without obsessing over Mort, and after I stopped clicking so much with the Happy Tree Friends character designs, I remember the show that started my love for the character in the first place, and I thought about how consistently cute-looking Mort is, of course excluding the freak scenarios where he isn't. For real though, when he's cute, he's actually really cute. And not in a superficial way either. I'm talking the real, organic, honest-to-God cuteness you'd find in a real-life animal. No offense, Happy Tree Friends. And for the first time in a while, I started watching All Hail King Julian again. And you know what? The show ain't perfect, but it's honestly really good for what it is. I of course didn't watch every single episode, just the first season. But either way, that's all I needed to remind me that maybe I don't have to limit myself to just enjoying one thing. Because both shows have their own unique strengths and weaknesses, and what one can provide, another may lack in some way. And it reminded me that I can still have my love for Mort, as well as enjoying other things, like Happy Tree Friends. Moral of the story, never be afraid to broaden your horizons. It's okay to enjoy one very special thing you like while also having another at the same time. I know that may sound obvious to some, but it never hurts to be reminded of, especially considering how powerful it can be in getting the most joy out of life. It kind of brings out the best of both worlds in a way, because one thing's weaknesses can get snubbed out by the other thing's strengths. That way you don't have to suffer as much from the other thing's downsides. Well, I'm sorry if you weren't expecting the surprise life lesson, but if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, as this video took a great deal of effort. For real though, you have no reason not to. Unless you want to wake up at exactly 3 in the morning with this image staring directly back at you. But without further ado, thank you so much for watching, and peace the frick out.